As the real negotiation on Iran restarted in Vienna, our global governance students negotiated on their own. They each represented the country and negotiated on topics of their own choosing. For instance, they negotiated a new agreement with Iran. They learned firsthand what it means to negotiate.
So our goal was to have a second JCPOA where we all were back to the agreement. And what we came up with was a result in which Iran stopped its nuclear and oil energy reliance by allowing German, Chinese, and Russian companies to build renewable energy power plants, and pledges never to aim at nuclear reactors and nuclear energy facilities again. For what concerns nuclear weapons, what we achieved is that Iran will stop the development of weapons of mass destruction and pledge never to develop them again, in exchange of an immediate removal of 45% of sanctions. And in case Iran complies, every 5 years, the United States will remove further 10% of sanctions. For what concerns inspections in Iran on the compliance, we agreed that the inspections will last for 20 years and will led by the international community alone, even though the decision-making process will be carried out by the P5+1 countries.
They also came up with some very original ideas that maybe the international community can copy.
Finally, we also established that Israel won't be publicly part of this deal, but will honor it because it is a partner of the US. And they will be, let's say, the eyes of the US in Middle East.
They negotiated on climate change.
And the main issue that was raised from the developed country was the $100 billion promised in the Paris Agreement that were never given to the developing countries.
On how to deal with refugees.
I'm from the refugee crisis group, and we decided to work on the new Pact on Migration and Asylum, which is currently under negotiation.
But in the end, this idea of creating a forum failed because Turkey didn't want to sit on the table with Cyprus, who was backed by Greece, because they did not recognize them. And
on how to make sure the whole world have access to COVID vaccinations.
19 has decided that the developed world will be sharing its technology, will be sharing its so-called recipe for making vaccines. So that
on ensuring equal gender representation in government.
So my group was actually the one whose topic was enhancing women representation in government.
And on how to fight racism and discrimination.
And a lot of time was spent trying to settle differences among the countries and regarding discrimination and racial justice and a variety of topics. It was very difficult to reach a compromise, especially since each country had different problems regarding racism and discrimination. They had them in different forms and
overall, these brave students negotiated online for 4 hours. At the end, they were exhausted, but hopefully also happy and having learned a few lessons.